No one is coming to save you, not your friends, not your family, not the perfect opportunity you keep waiting for. And the truth is, no perfect moment is coming either. Most people spend their entire lives waiting to feel ready, waiting for the fear to disappear, waiting for a sign. But here's what they don't realize: nothing changes until you force it to change. Nothing moves until you move. And the moment you finally decide to act, even when you don't feel like it, something strange begins to happen. Things start shifting. Doors that once felt invisible slowly begin to appear. What most people don't know is that success rarely begins with confidence. In fact, many successful people started at their lowest point, tired, uncertain, and completely unmotivated. There are moments in history where the biggest breakthroughs didn't come from inspiration, but from pressure, from people pushing themselves when every part of their mind told them to stop. This hidden truth is often ignored because it's uncomfortable. It's easier to believe that successful people are just different, that they have something you don't. But that's not true. The real difference is much simpler and much harder to accept. In this video, you're going to learn what actually happens when you force yourself to move forward, even when you feel stuck. You'll understand why waiting for motivation is the biggest mistake you can make, and how taking action, no matter how small, can completely change the direction of your life. We'll break down the psychology behind momentum, why your brain resists discomfort, and how pushing through that resistance is the exact moment where transformation begins. You'll also discover why most people stay trapped in the same place for years, while a few quietly break out and build a different life. But here's the most important part. This isn't just another motivational message. If you stay until the end, you'll see how a simple shift in your behavior can trigger a chain reaction you didn't expect. A reaction that opens opportunities, builds confidence, and slowly reshapes how you see yourself. This is the part most people never reach, because they quit too early. And that's exactly why you need to watch this till the end, because somewhere in this video you might recognize yourself, your habits, your excuses, your potential. And once you see it clearly, you won't be able to unsee it. So if you're ready to stop waiting and start moving, if you're ready to understand what really creates success behind the scenes, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Soul Manifestation Code. If you're serious about changing your life, make sure you subscribe and stay connected for more real, powerful insights. Most people are waiting to feel motivated, waiting for that sudden burst of energy that makes everything easier. They tell themselves, "I'll start tomorrow when I feel ready." But tomorrow comes and that feeling is still missing. So they wait again. And slowly, without even realizing it, waiting becomes a habit. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into years, and nothing really changes. The truth is, most people believe success begins with a feeling, a spark, a moment where everything finally clicks. They think successful people wake up excited, driven, and clear about what to do. But what if that's not how it works at all? What if that feeling you're waiting for is actually the thing holding you back? Because here's what's rarely talked about. That sense of being ready is often just comfort in disguise. It's your mind trying to protect you from effort, from uncertainty, from failure. It tells you to wait a little longer, to prepare a little more, to think it through one more time. And it feels logical, it feels safe, but it also keeps you exactly where you are. Now think about this. If motivation really came first, then everyone would succeed eventually. Everyone would have their moment. But that's not what happens. Some people stay stuck forever, while others move forward, even when they feel tired, lost, or completely unmotivated. So what's different about them? Why do some people take action when their mind is telling them not to? Why do they keep going when they don't feel confident, when they don't feel ready, when they don't feel anything at all? And more importantly, what do they understand that most people don't? Here's the part most people don't want to hear. Success is not about motivation. It never was. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. Some days you feel strong, focused, ready to take on anything, and other days you feel nothing. No energy, no drive, no reason to even start. If your progress depends on how you feel, then your progress will always be inconsistent. The truth is much simpler and much harder. Success is about doing things when you don't want to do them. It's about showing up when your mind is full of excuses, when your body feels heavy, when distractions feel more attractive than your goals. That's the real test. Not when it's easy, but when it's uncomfortable, because pain is part of the process. Not just physical pain, but mental resistance, doubt, frustration, boredom, the feeling that nothing is working. These are not signs that you're failing. These are signs that you're in the process, but most people misread it. They think discomfort means stop. They think struggle means something is wrong, so they quit too early, and that's where everything separates. Some people feel the same resistance, the same doubt, the same lack of motivation, but they respond differently. They don't wait for the feeling to change. They don't negotiate with their excuses. They don't look for the perfect moment. They act anyway. The difference is simple. They move anyway, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when it feels pointless. They keep going, not because they feel like it, but because they decided to. There will be days when you don't feel like working, days when even the smallest task feels heavy. You'll sit there, knowing what you should do, but something inside you resists, not because you're lazy, but because your mind is trying to keep you comfortable. And comfort is easy to choose when nothing is pushing you. You won't always feel confident either. In fact, most of the time, you'll feel unsure. You'll question your decisions. You'll doubt your abilities. You'll wonder if it's even worth it. That voice in your head will get louder, telling you to wait, to slow down, to avoid the risk. And if you listen to it every time, you'll never move forward. You won't always feel ready. There will never be a perfect moment where everything aligns. No perfect timing, no perfect mindset, no perfect plan, just uncertainty, just imperfect conditions. And that's where most people stop. They keep preparing, keep thinking, keep waiting, but never actually begin. But even in all of that, you can still act. You can move without confidence. You can start without clarity. You can work without motivation. Action doesn't require a perfect feeling. It only requires a decision, a small push against your own resistance, a moment where you stop negotiating with yourself and just begin. Because once you force that first step, something changes. Force creates momentum. That small action builds energy. It breaks the stillness. It makes the next step slightly easier. And then the next one becomes easier too. Momentum creates progress. And even if the progress is slow, it's real, it's visible, it's something you can build on. Progress creates belief, not fake confidence, but real belief, the kind that comes from proof, the kind that grows every time you show up, even when you don't feel like it. Most people don't realize they are stuck. It doesn't feel like being trapped. It feels like thinking, planning, preparing. They tell themselves they're being careful, that they're waiting for the right time. But in reality, they are overthinking everything. Every decision becomes heavier than it needs to be. Every step is analyzed again and again until it loses all momentum. And while they're busy trying to make the perfect move, they don't move at all. Then comes the idea of perfect conditions, the belief that things will be easier later, when there's more time, more money, more clarity. They convince themselves that success requires the right environment, the right mood, the right moment, but those conditions rarely arrive. And even when they do, the mind finds a new reason to delay, a new excuse to wait just a little longer. Fear plays its part too, not always obvious, not always loud. Sometimes it hides behind logic, behind hesitation, behind the need to feel certain before starting, the fear of failure, of making mistakes, of being judged. So instead of risking failure, they choose inaction, because doing nothing feels safer than trying and falling short. And then there's comfort, the most silent and dangerous trap of all. It feels good in the moment. It feels easy, familiar, predictable. You know what to expect, and nothing challenges you. But that same comfort slowly keeps you in the same place. It removes urgency. It weakens your drive. It makes you accept less than what you're capable of. Comfort is the most expensive trap, because while you're choosing ease today, you're paying for it with your future. The shift doesn't begin with something big. It begins with something small, so small that your mind almost ignores it. That's the part most people misunderstand. They think change requires a huge burst of effort, a perfect plan, a powerful start. But real change starts quietly, with simple actions repeated over time. Start small, not because you have to, but because it works. When the step is small, resistance is weaker. The excuses lose their strength. It becomes easier to begin, even on days when you don't feel like it. And those are the days that matter the most. Do something daily, not something perfect, not something impressive, just something consistent. One task, one step, one effort. It might feel insignificant in the moment. It might feel like it's not enough. But what you're really building is not just progress. You're building a habit of showing up. Even when it feels pointless, keep going, because progress doesn't always feel rewarding at the start. Sometimes it feels repetitive. Sometimes it feels slow. You won't always see immediate results. And that's where most people stop. They expect quick outcomes, and when they don't see them, they assume it's not working. But something is happening beneath the surface. Every small action is creating a pattern. Every repeated effort is strengthening your discipline. You are training yourself to act without waiting, to move without overthinking, to follow through even when it feels ordinary. You don't need motivation, you need movement, because movement creates direction. It builds rhythm. It turns effort into habit. And once that habit is formed, it becomes harder to stop than to continue. The first step always feels the hardest. It feels heavy, uncomfortable, uncertain. You question yourself before you even begin. Your mind looks for reasons to delay, to avoid, to stay where it feels safe. And in that moment, even the smallest action can feel like a big effort. That's why most people never take it. Not because they can't, but because it feels too difficult at the start. But once that first step is taken, something shifts. The second step doesn't feel the same. It's still not easy, but it's lighter. There's less resistance, less hesitation. You've already broken through the hardest part, and now your mind begins to adjust. What once felt unfamiliar starts to feel possible. Then slowly, things begin to change. Not all at once, not in a dramatic way, but in small, noticeable ways. You start seeing opportunities you didn't notice before, chances to improve, to grow, to move forward. It's not that they suddenly appeared, it's that you're finally in motion, and motion reveals what was always there. Your confidence starts to grow too, not from thinking, but from doing, from proving to yourself that you can take action, even when it's hard. Each step becomes evidence, each effort builds trust within yourself. And then something else happens. People begin to notice. Not because you told them, but because your actions become visible. Your consistency stands out. Your progress speaks, even when you don't. Doors don't open for thinkers. They open for doers. Because action creates energy. It creates presence. It creates results that others can see and respond to. And once that cycle begins, it becomes easier to keep going than to stop. At some point, something deeper begins to change. It's not just about the actions anymore. It's about how you see yourself. In the beginning, you might have believed you were lazy, unmotivated, or inconsistent. Those labels felt real because your actions matched them. But once you start showing up, even in small ways, that image starts to break. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids effort. Because now you're putting in effort. You're doing things you once delayed. You're following through, even when it's uncomfortable, and that creates a quiet shift inside you. You don't need to say it out loud. You can feel it. You're no longer the person who always waits. You start trusting yourself, not because everything is perfect, but because you've proven something important, that you can act without excuses, that you can move even when it's hard, that you can rely on yourself to do what needs to be done. And that kind of trust is different. It's not based on emotions, it's built through repeated action. Discipline begins to feel normal, not forced, not painful, just part of who you are becoming. The things that once felt difficult start to feel routine. You don't argue with yourself as much. You don't waste time deciding. You just begin. And that removes a lot of friction from your life. You don't become successful first. You become consistent first, because consistency reshapes your identity. It changes how you think, how you act, how you respond to challenges. And once that identity is formed, success is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you naturally move toward, step by step, without needing to force it every time. There comes a phase where everything feels heavier than usual. The excitement fades, the early energy disappears, and what's left is effort, repetition, silence. This is the part no one talks about, because it's not impressive. It's not motivating. It's just hard. It will feel hard, not just physically but mentally. You'll feel resistance in simple tasks. Things that once felt manageable will start to feel overwhelming. Your mind will question everything. It will ask if this is even worth it, if you're going in the right direction, if you should just stop and go back to what feels easier. You will doubt yourself. Even if you've made progress, even if you've seen small results, doubt will still show up. It doesn't disappear just because you started. In fact, sometimes it gets louder. It makes you second guess your actions. It makes you compare yourself to others. It makes you feel like you're behind, like you're not doing enough. And then comes the strongest urge of all, the urge to quit. Not because you're weak, but because quitting feels like relief. It feels like escape from pressure, from uncertainty, from effort. Your mind will try to convince you that stopping is the smarter choice, that you can always start again later. But this is the moment that matters the most. That's the test. Not when you feel strong, not when everything is going well, but right here when it's difficult, when it's uncomfortable, when every part of you wants to stop. This is where most people stop, and where you must continue. Because pushing through this phase changes something deeper. It separates temporary effort from real commitment. It turns intention into proof. And every step you take in this phase builds a level of strength that can't be faked or borrowed. And when you look back, you start to see it clearly. No one came to save you. No sudden opportunity appeared out of nowhere. No perfect moment showed up to tell you it was time. All those things you once waited for never really arrived. And yet something still changed. You forced yourself, not once, but again and again, on days when it felt pointless, on days when nothing made sense, on days when quitting felt easier than continuing. You didn't wait for the feeling. You didn't wait for confidence. You moved anyway. And that decision, repeated over time, started to shape everything around you. At first, the changes were small, almost unnoticeable, a little more control over your time, a little more focus, a little less hesitation, but slowly, those small shifts began to connect. Your actions became sharper, your thinking became clearer. You stopped arguing with yourself so much. You just did what needed to be done. And then, without warning, things outside of you started to respond. Situations began to shift. New possibilities showed up where there was once nothing. Conversations felt different. Opportunities started to appear in places you hadn't looked before. It wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It was the result of movement. You forced yourself, and everything changed. Not instantly, not magically, but steadily, in a way that built something real, something you could feel and trust. And that's when the first door opened. If this message reached you at the right time, don't ignore it. There's a reason you're still here, a reason something inside you connected with these words. Maybe it's that quiet voice telling you it's time to move, time to stop waiting, time to take control. You don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need a perfect plan. Just start today, even if it's small. One step, one action, one decision that moves you forward. That's all it takes to begin. Because the truth is, your future doesn't change in one big moment. It changes in the small choices you make daily, the moments when you decide to act instead of delay, when you choose growth over comfort, when you push yourself even slightly beyond what feels easy. That's where everything begins to shift. So don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect time. Use this moment, right now. And if you want more real, honest motivation like this, something that actually pushes you to grow, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Stay connected, stay focused, and keep moving forward.